We're breaking protocol here, and instead of starting in the red and moving to amber and finishing with the green, we're starting with the green because Ireland are in green, and we figured that we need to give this enough time to let it breathe. It's one of those situations where there are literally too many storylines to be able to talk about this properly, like unless we had, weeks to do it. And actually, it turns out, luckily, we do have weeks to do it. So we will get to all the storylines. If there's a bit that you think we haven't covered today, feel free to get all busy in our comments about, oh, you didn't talk about this. Like, I know, okay, fair enough, but there was just too much happening.
Yeah, well, I have one way to frame this, right? As you say, we have 2 weeks to talk about this. I watched the match on TV and I couldn't get over the atmosphere and the tension in that first half and how exhilarating it was. You were both at the game. What was it like?
I missed the whole Sexton bawling his eyes out at Ireland's call. I couldn't, because I was actually filming to send to the kids going, but I had missed the whole, him being unable to sing it and then desperately trying to sing it. And the camera kind of panned away from me, just sound on Johnny Sexton for a minute and a half here. Let's see this.
No, because then it becomes something that he's probably consciously uncomfortable about.
Well, it doesn't matter.
It was real. It wasn't contrived.
No, but
to be fair, it was great. That was amazing. I thought that was absolutely amazing.
He was asked about that post-match.
Could you see it?
On the big screen, yeah. So I wasn't close enough to, but yeah, absolutely. I was very, very striking. It was Ireland's call is quite maligned. Our national anthem isn't the most inspiring at all. Whereas I think most of the Irish were more up for the La Marseillaise because we love that anthem.
We do.
But Sexton was anyone who saw that was like, Jesus, this is something special about to happen here, I think.
He mentioned afterwards that they discussed the significance of the anthem in the build-up to the match. So it didn't come out of nowhere. On
Monday, Brian O'Driscoll and Craig Doyle, who the picture camera caught Craig Doyle in the crowd.
That was one of my highlights.
Sorry, I've completely forgotten the name of the guy from Ulster who had come in with them, who was obviously part of Brian's documentary. I'll look that up for you in a second when my brain starts working again. But they come in on the Monday, and like Stephen Ferris had mentioned, the pre-match as well. And obviously they had decided that this is something about the togetherness, that the slow build-up from here to the World Cup. They've got to reach certain emotional pitches, because you can't do this. They can't be crying for the anthems for the game against Italy,
I was in Canada last week on the way over, 8-hour flight. I read the Willie Anderson book, basically top to bottom, and he was on about the anthems, and this is before kind of the Ireland's call time, and he made a point of saying that it was sort of a bit of an issue, and it did get me thinking, have we sort of, where are we with Ireland's call? Is it kind of half we mock it and we half kind of like it? Because I remember liking it at the start, but now I kind of struggle to get going with it. But anyway, so when I was getting the flight back, I watched the Jack Charlton documentary. And is there a little bit of that now, where we have an Englishman taking over what is going to be the greatest Irish rugby kind of spell of all time? And a very, very likeable one at that.
Very likeable.
He's just... Is there anything bad to be said about Andy Farrell?
No, it's funny. It's how those north of England people are very similar to us.
It's true.
Not those softy Southerners. It's,
people, the players seem to love the camp. They seem to love playing for him. And I don't know, Gerard, what you thought of the game Saturday. I was at 3 Irish rugby games last year. I was totally underwhelmed because they completely bashed the 3 teams that were playing. This was a proper test. There was a great atmosphere at the game, and Ireland battered France, really. I thought they were worthy of... the stat about the time that was spent, what was the stat, Colin? You had it?
Yeah, so France scored 19 points despite only spending a total of 57 seconds in Ireland's 22.
57.
Or another way of looking at it is Ireland kept France out of the 22 for 79 minutes and 3 seconds.
There were so many moments as well. The Keenan try was like something out of the Super Bowl, the way it was worked. It was that's like something you'd see from a kind of a running back making a false run or something like that. And
an end around.
And then the French first try, my one gripe with rugby at the moment is that the players are too big to allow space for free movement of players like that. And that French try was insane. The handling, everything about it. And I was looking at the clock after half an hour. It was if this scoring continues, this is going to be a basketball score.
The ingenuity was incredible, because Ronan O'Gara was on the show yesterday with Joe, and he said, you don't practice that little scoop pass that France did. And the margin for error is so fine at that level of the game, because that could have been another try for Ireland. And then 12 seconds later, France are touching down.
It was a pretty good try. Some missed tackles in the middle, which maybe if we'd lost
it was the combination of was it Murray and Keenan, was it? Or Hansen bumped into each other basically trying to stop her. But I mean, like the pace to get there, and like you say, it was a throwback kind of Barbarians-esque try from 50 years ago.
And sorry, I was right beside, like, effectively where. No, there seemed to be a lot of French fans there. When Alele Blue was like 10,000. Yeah. So I was beside like a big portion of, and when maybe when they broke the first tackle in that move, or the place absolutely lit up. I was like, Jesus, I've never seen this before. Visiting fans, the French fans could almost feel, oh, this could be a try like of the ages.
Yeah, they can see
and
it.
I was like, oh my God. And the French fans just seem to be so up for it. Like I've never been at a game like it. Anyway,
the greatest Six Nations game in history, according to Owen Slot today in the Times. So we're like, oh, this is one of the great games of all time. Certainly one of the best opening halves, 40 minutes, and he does like that's the best 40 minutes of international rugby I've seen. And it's like, no, this is definitely like as good as you're going to see two teams. Like, I actually think Dupont was man of the match. I've never seen a performance as amazing.
The Hansen tag was absolutely insane.
But
that was insane.
Everything else he did. Everything else.
The highlight.
He was centrally involved in, like, and he was there for. He might have been running the trail line for that try as well. If it had.
I would have crabbed him regarding the kick, but the more I look at the end, at it, like, was the pass necessarily on? Ireland's defence seemed to be very good.
And the other thing is that bounces left instead of right.
Yeah.
Like. You know, so we were relatively fortunate in many different ways, including the try. It was never a try. It was fairly obvious in the ground. It wasn't a try. I mean, I think the crowd did their bit. Wayne Barnes kind of backed himself into a corner by saying on-field decision try. It needs to be, massively obvious. And then as soon as this try got scored, the picture emerges. I don't know who controls those pictures, but if this was in France, we would be complaining about the French. So you gotta hold your hands up and say, whatever happened there, that's a failing on the part of the TMO and whoever's providing the pictures, because it was clear his right foot was in touch. And
it wasn't at the time, though.
I think it was.
No,
I think there's no. I mean, if you understand how like angles go, what goes up has to have come from somewhere. You can't go. He didn't go straight, so it had to be coming up, and it had to have come off the ground. I thought it was fairly obvious.
Watching on TV, it seemed like there was no way it was a try. I don't know what it felt like in the stadium watching it, but the one thing that I was laughing at, you see afterwards when James Lowe was caught in the big screen and did a face of like, I can't believe that's been allowed, and you could actually hear the crowd laughing from TV. But it was brilliant.
I think he's. They say Kiwis and Irish are kind of similar, but Jesus, he must be the most popular Kiwi. Like, more popular than Joe Schmidt. Like, he's just the most likeable fella and epitomises the smile on the face of the players in the squad. I thought, as much as maybe he got fortunate, I thought the ingenuity of his footwork for that try was still amazing, even if we got lucky.
He left the earth.
Yeah,
he left
amazing.
It was unbelievable.
And
that probably goes to show his attitude towards life, which is just kind of go for it, and his reaction afterwards to the camera.
I'm fairly sure Brian O'Driscoll scored the exact same kind of try that we got away with in the game the year after he scored his hat-trick. Would never have been given now, but sure, it was given. Look, here's the thing, like,
Ireland totally deserved to win that game, regardless of what happened.
Was he tackled? Was it a no-arms tackle? And if it was a no-arms tackle, then it's going to be a penalty try. And if it's a penalty try, then we get the conversion and we actually,
France should have been down to 14. There was a ridiculous late tackle on Johnny Sexton that was missed.
No, it wasn't missed. It wasn't missed. They played penalty advantage for that.
Okay.
And
there we go.
That's what he said. That's what Wayne Barnes said afterwards. You were playing penalty advantage. Although he didn't have his arm
we
up.
nearly scored from it. Yeah.
Well, it was 31 minutes without Sexton and the game was in the balance, and Ireland ended up winning the game by 13 points. Like, that's a really good sign ahead of the World Cup. But were we back here in 2018 talking about the same thing? Heading into 2019, start of the year, being like, this could be it. What's the difference now?
Oh, totally. Well, absolutely. The difference now is that we've won the first two games of the Six Nations. England came and physically just said, there's a really easy way to stop you doing what you're doing, and that's to smash you.
Yeah.
And also there was just no strength in depth. Like, we were playing Robbie Henshaw full back in that game. And the style of play had not iterated. We were like, we were really good last year, we're going to do exactly the same thing this year, and we'll move on. And now it seems as if that's not the case at all. So, proper strength and depth. And there you go. Everybody arguing in the comments about Ireland's call instead of celebrating what an amazing victory it was. What's wrong with you people?
Irish people don't know what to do with themselves. We're just not used to having the best team in the world at any sport. Maybe individual sports were quite good at throughout the years of boxing and golf, but actually having the best team in the world, undisputably. If you saw the French reaction in the press on Saturday evening and into Sunday, it was like, undoubtedly we lost against the best side of the world. not just in the rankings.
And you're on about going back playing Astro at 34, like that run that Sexton made, and that you're like, what?
I know, yeah,
incredible.
Like,
37 years
him
old.
and O'Mahony, and actually outstripping the 6 of the 7 from France. They're like,
how good was Doris as well as somebody who's like, who kind of watches rugby like in and out? I thought he was phenomenal. Like his handling, everything was like.
The pass for the ring rows.
Yeah.
Sorry, the other thing I wanted to talk about was 30 seconds in, spider cam. You're like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Did you see the spider cam? Like it rushed back really, it was just embarrassed by what it had done. It kind of rushed back, like I don't want to be seen here.
Show us the angle from above, you cowards! Like that's what I wanted to see.
To see where the ball hit.
Yeah.
Then you one of those and you jump off the screen like
a bunch of
that
cowards.
Footage must exist somewhere, because it's the same thing that happened in the NFL game the previous week in the championship game where the Eagles had hit it, but with a punt, but they couldn't find footage to prove that it had happened, even though the whole stadium had seen it, and because of that. They couldn't retake it. So I was like, I actually thought he hadn't kicked it well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you have a view of it?
Well, yeah, we were behind it. I was like, that wasn't a great kick. But actually, on the TV, when I look back at it, it looked like it was going to be a good kick. And so therefore, but we get the scrum. You're like, all right, that's okay, that's interesting. And then our scrum holds up. Like our scrum holding up, that's the first thing. Well, this scrum can't possibly hold up. We're missing all our best scrummagers and our best players. And it's like, well, hang on a second now. I mean... was it Raj saying Tyke Furlong doesn't just get the jersey back automatically?
Yeah.
Well, there's a pair at the minute now. Finlay Bealham. Like if that pop pass had come from Tyke Furlong, there would be like, the fanboying would not stop. So Finlay Bealham deserves every single bit of praise that's coming his way.
Yeah, it suggested Bealham's learning off Furlong, and that's what O'Gara was saying yesterday to Joe. He was like, in his own experience as a coach, that he will not want to relinquish that shirt. No chance. Like it's not like back to you now, Tyke. He said this is going to be seriously competitive.
Yeah.
And you're talking about potentially to have 2 different 15s here in Ireland that are extremely competitive.
Well, that's one of the things that came up in conversation from their time in Portugal. We talked to Quinny about that in just a little while as well. And then was there something else? Oh, Tom O'Toole obviously coming on and like blasting through tackles. Like Tom O'Toole's only 24, so like he's not supposed to be world class just yet. He's got another 3 or 4 years of learning how to scrummage properly. And but if you can have that kind of impact and we're this far down the depth chart at this point, then maybe he catapults himself up the depth chart a bit, and all of a sudden, like I think that's the bit that made them so happy afterwards. This wasn't our first team playing really well. This was like, you're looking around who's fit, who's available, and dealing with the problems that they had, and still
there were 2 or 3 tries a better team, I thought, on the day.
Yeah,
really did. Now maybe I was thinking this, like what will the difference be playing in France? But on that display, Ireland are definitely better than France.
Yeah, you just hope it didn't peak too soon, but I don't think they did.
I don't think, no.
I do think, though, that like home advantage matters a huge amount. So when we play France, it'll be in the Stade de France and there'll be like tiny pockets of Irish fans.
I think it was interesting that Farrell played that up for the match as well, because like I have been at Six Nations games and we spoke about this pre-show about like the whole furore about people going for beers. People didn't go for beers Saturday in the game because, as you say, they didn't want to leave. They didn't want to miss anything.
But how could you, like?
When the game's good, no one goes for beers. That's what happens.
But like, I was at Six Nations last where there was just such a formality. It was quite dead. There was no real atmosphere there. And in fairness, I mean, I still think rugby is different to football in the sense of the atmosphere. But it was pretty amazing at times on Saturday.
Yeah. And look, it's in such a good moment. Like we sit here Monday morning reflecting on that performance. You're talking about 13 consecutive Test victories at the Aviva, and in the last year, Andy Farrell's side has beaten every major side in the sport. France putting the French victory, putting the bow on that. It's remarkable. And like another thing too, with like Ross Byrne's performance in the last half an hour.
Definitely want to get Quinny on that because
we'll touch on that with Quinny. And then like, does anything epitomise Sexton's career so much as that sprint to help his team get up the pitch, and then he got clattered and he basically wasn't the same after that and got subbed at the start of the second half. And I'm like, that is Sexton in a nutshell, doing something remarkable, sacrificing himself and inspiring the team to a victory. But it's in a great place at the moment. But it'll be interesting to hear Quinny talk about more
in
detail.
Incredible. It is absolutely incredible. Like Sexton, we should not take for granted just how incredible Sexton is at this stage of his career. Still,
it's unbelievable.
Still driving those standards, still dominating the agenda pre and post match. Like it is completely remarkable that at his age he is still able to do this. The end of Owen Slott's piece, Farrell has strength and depth to take on the world, and he's like, these are amazing, these incredible times. And he lists all the achievements and how great Farrell is, and then obviously talks about our national preoccupation with the quarterfinals, and he's like, yeah, the draw means they will play Scotland and South Africa in their group, and then New Zealand or France in the quarterfinals. So even if they haven't peaked too early, even if they haven't become too reliant on Sexton, even if they haven't finished off, or even if they have finished off with this Grand Slam and are still the number one team in the world, it would actually still be no surprise if they didn't get beyond the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but let's enjoy the moment as well.
That's what I'm saying.
This is an unbelievable Six Nations campaign. Scotland are gonna, it's not a formality. That game in Edinburgh is going to be incredible as well.
Yeah. England last at home, potential Grand Slam, the first one to win it at the Aviva.
Good question here from Flying Hellfish 99. Can we do away with silence for kickers? La Marseillaise during the kicks was great.
Yeah.
The French don't care.
Yeah.
None of that silence bollocks.
Ramo did not react, didn't even flinch.
Yeah.
And the national anthem was blaring out when he was sitting. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Strangely, they took him off. I know Jalabert came on.
I did think because he just landed a kick
flawless
as well.
And he isn't a big fan of Ramo overall, but kicking wise, geez, the guys, it was
both their wingers I thought were sensational. I thought Ramos was grand, to be honest. But anyway, okay, so that's in the green. Yeah. What do you want to do now, Colin? We're in uncharted territory.
Well, we may as well
here.
just keep on going with green and then finish at red in the Welsh rugby. So the other green is Manchester, Johnny, both on the male and female side this weekend. All 4 victories.
Yeah, great week for Man City, obviously. I hope the book is thrown at them, but they seem to rally, and their fans gave it a bit of welly yesterday for the victory over Villa. Man United was a strange one. I watched a good bit of that game, and they were under the cosh, but they're just finding a way of doing it. And Rashford again, I mean, it's phenomenal what he's doing. And
Rashford being a world-class header of the ball is like last 2 weeks new thing.
It's unbelievable.
Could you do that the whole time?
Absolutely. 8 goals in his last 9 games.
Incredible.
This is a Cantona-esque run to the league.
Yeah. He's becoming an elite mentality monster, as Jurgen Klopp once said about his own players. I don't know what Eric Ten Hag has done to that guy, but he is finally fulfilling the world-class potential that he's always had. Last year, most United fans were quite happy to see the back of Rashford. He's linked to Barcelona and PSG. It's like, yeah, off which you maybe come back in a few years' time, get your head right and become the player that we know you can. He's absolutely phenomenal at the moment, and Ten Hag, reacting to the disappointing 2-2 draw against Leeds during the week with that performance. They weren't, as you said to me yesterday, Johnny, they weren't exceptional United by any means. Leeds were decent, but they got the job done. It's a classic title-winning type performance.
And Man United fans now, there's always this lovely feeling of your team wins and you watch Monday Night Football, and Liverpool have now become irrelevant relative to Man United for the time being. Anyway.
Well, they'll never be irrelevant. I know what you mean.
As in, they're not all of a sudden
not challenging. Yeah,
they're not even. Are they challenging for the top 4?
No, they're nowhere near it.
Probably not at this stage. Yeah, so tonight's going to be fascinating, I think.
But it's been an exceptional weekend for Manchester United overall. In the WSL, they went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, beat Spurs 2-1, top of the league. So United could be winning 1 league title at least in WSL. My niece went to her first football game yesterday. She went to this one at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium,
right,
with my sister and husband, and had the full Spurs kit on, and started loudly chanting for United.
Cool.
She liked the red team.
All right, fair enough. You're allowed to change.
Herself. She sees the potential on this side to actually win the league.
There we go.
Typical Man United fan though, living in London, right?
They're trying to make her a Spurs fan. She's not having it. She knows.
Fair enough. Maybe they should have taken her to a game where they were going to win, but a rookie mistake that they can rectify when, I don't know, Villa roll into town or somebody else. I thought the team that Pep picked was interesting. It was basically the Harlem Globetrotters side, and in the middle of the game, the commentary, they're like, "Oh, you can't do this. You can't do this against Arsenal." Bernardo Silva's at left back. It's like, oh, it's funny. It's funny they're missing somebody who, if had been playing in that same position, they would have been like, oh wow, look at Cancelo, look at his positioning. It's so mature and intelligent. What an articulation of his philosophy this is. But because it's Bernardo Silva, they're like, well, it's Saka. He's going to be running up against that. It's not going to work. So we'll see what happens. But I did feel like that was a team picked to go and beat the shit out of Aston Villa in the first half, dominate the game, and then go, yeah, this is us. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in hindsight, you're saying that like they were 3.
Oh no, I said it. I saw it.
You think so?
I saw the team.
Oh really?
Like, well, it was 3 at the back and 5, all the world's best forwards.
Yeah. Like, I saw a tweet saying like someone tried to find me 4 defenders in this Man City side. He's not having it at all. But don't worry now with Erling Haaland going off injured at half time.
Yeah, I didn't see
in that. It's serious.
They were like hopeful, and it's in the back pages there that he might be out for the game. But I don't know. I mean, look, they'll all go back and go. The post match, the Gundogan post-match interview, Jess Treves was probing a little bit around as much as you can do in those. It was like, oh, Erling, and he played well. I mean, he was making the runs to create space for other players like he's supposed to. Obviously, he scored a load of goals. This was Gundogan in his like slightly clipped Germanic, and you're like, okay, that's interesting. He's captain having a go off Haaland.
Haaland's not been playing that well recent games though. Like in fairness,
so he made a goal in the first half, right? And he made some other runs, and Haaland hasn't been playing well. The rest of the team has been playing well. Do you know? And Haaland has scored more goals by Christmas than most Premier League scorers will score in the whole season. So the criticism of Haaland, whatever, is whose job is it to make him fit in the team? It's everybody's job. But they weren't there was definitely an undercurrent there. It's up to him.
Well, I was asking Clive Allen on Friday in the kickoff, as brilliant as Haaland is, generational talent and all that, it was like, did he pick the wrong club to go to? Because he's going to score goals regardless of where he plays, but he seems.
We were saying this at the start of the season, and it looked like the most ridiculous thing ever.
Can I just ask you though? So he's co-opted Clive Allen's experience, goals.
He loves
name,
Clive Allen,
celebrity, and into his point, Clive Allen roundly dismissed it. just for the record, there for everybody who's watching.
I'm putting it to you.
I could be there of a Monday night, right, just kind of minding my own business, maybe watching like TG Caher or something, and I will get a WhatsApp in of Clive Allen scoring a goal for QPR from Cullum. There's a lot of bromance there.
Well, I mean, I think that happened once, but it was memorable when I did it because it was New Year's. It was New Year's when I did it. But I mean, our latest chat was to do with music.
There we go.
So it could be anything.
There is a little bit of a debate around Haaland now, if that doesn't sound ridiculous, as in at times when you're playing like a kind of a defence that's sitting back a bit, and Man City are a bit lethargic and a bit slow in possession, he doesn't really look like he's the amazing player that he is. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Gundogan for me, he's very interesting in interviews. He's actually quite candid. He questioned their hunger effectively.
Well, there was a skirmish for the penalty. He was going to take the penalty and he had to step in.
Yeah.
And let Mahrez take it. I think Rodri was around the ball, Haaland was around the ball.
Yeah, what's Rodri doing? Like, I've already scored one, I'm going to score again. It's like, but what are you talking about? That's not how this works.
Yeah, Gundogan did well there.
It didn't look like Haaland was like, no, it's his turn. He's in anyway.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to Amber.
Yeah. What's an Amber, Johnny? You don't know.
What is an Amber actually? Amber is Arsenal. Again, I didn't see this game, so but we are at that moment where Arsenal is this the sort of the 2-week run where they kind of lose their grip on the Premier League, and it did sound like we had a big kind of VAR debacle for Arteta. I feel a little bit.
Lee Mason forgot to draw the line.
Yeah,
he forgot to draw the line.
Like not draw the line in the sense of like I've had enough here.
In the
draw
VAR
an actual
room,
line.
He forgot to accurately assess the situation. So Brentford's goal should not have stood, and Arsenal should have won. But now it's great for the league because Man City won, and it's really tight again. Yeah,
although you'd probably nearly want Arsenal to be further. You'd want them to be 5 or 7 clear because you think if Man City win Wednesday.
No, but I think it's great for the match this weekend. Like this, as you say, only 2 days away. This Wednesday, it's kind of gone under the radar. Arsenal are playing Manchester City, and now it's tantalising after what happened at the weekend.
Big challenge for them now after this run of games, but it does sound like they were a little bit unfortunate. I don't know where I am with VAR. I think it's gone from one extreme to the other of late, where it's missing ridiculous things.
Well, I suggested it goes into the performance rankings. Chant mature yesterday, and we were both like,
VAR.
Kind of sick of talking about VAR. Like,
here's the thing. It's it's exactly the same. It's human error, but it's like slightly less egregious.
That's it.
Yeah.
I put the flag up. I didn't put the flag up. It's the same thing.
It'll
get better.
I think that's exactly it. It is human error. It's still a human being making the decision.
Yeah.
VAR is just assisting.
Now,
literally assisting.
Yeah, I don't know if you're following the evolution of AI, but we're over the weekend, everybody's like, the evolution of AI has been linear for decades, and then all of a sudden it has stopped being, and now it's become exponential, and now it's reaching a point where it's hyper exponential. So I guess within the next 18 months is that there'll be no human involved in any of the decision making in this. That they'll just be like, we'll know immediately when a ball is kicked.
They do it in tennis. They take the challenges away now, so players have 3 challenges remaining. But instead, it's literally like the system will tell you whether it's in or out, and you just get on with the game quickly. And that's exactly where football should get to. Brentford, though, unbeaten in 10 in the Premier League.
Amazing.
Brentford are really good.
They're incredible. They're just the second side to take points off Arsenal at the Emirates this season. Newcastle were the other. Overall, though, Arsenal could have been in the red. WSL, they lost to Manchester City 2-1. Katie McCabe on the bench again. Came on. So they were. It's very, very dark amber. They could have gone to red here, Arsenal. They just squeaked it because they didn't lose against Brentford.
The big news of the weekend, obviously. So we're going to get to the red. Evan Ferguson came off the bench, just so you're all.
57th minute. Yeah,
that's okay. They were also pretty good. And sorry, we should have.
That was a concern.
And they had another VAR disallowed goal there.
We should have put Chris Hughton in the green. He's got the gig in Ghana full time. It looked like they were heading that direction. So we wish them all the very best. What else we got in red?
Red, we have. We can start here with Nathan Jones.
It's all Welsh, all red.
Yeah, very Welsh team. Nathan Jones, 94 days in the job in a 3.5-year contract. Last 7 of his 8 Premier League games in charge. Last 9 of his 14 games overall. They did beat Manchester City in the League Cup in the quarter-final to reach the semi-final of the League Cup under Nathan Jones. And he got the job in November, so he would have had a significant impact in the League Cup. So there was that. But once those comments aired after the Brentford defeat last weekend, where he says, I've had to compromise my beliefs in order to progress.
Well, he was also bigging himself up as one of the best managers statistically. And you're like, well, if some of the board is trying to back you here, sometimes I wonder, do players sort of not necessarily take to a manager at a particular club? Because he's obviously been so good at Luton, where he'd obviously lost the plot of late, and the game was up. And I think, in fairness to the board, they were like trying to give him a chance. But you can't be gambling on your Premier League future with the money involved.
No, he was referencing his 2 spells with Luton Town, and he's saying pound for pound we had the best statistics in the Championship. Sky Sports looked into it, published those stats, and that was not the case.
Then you're done, kind of.
Done, yeah.
And of course, Lamson, Gerrard and the likes being referenced as potential. I mean, it'd be good fun if it were to happen. I'd say Jesse Marsh might get it.
Jesse Marsh, heavily linked this morning. Yeah. Southampton, a big fan of his high pressing style. Now, Leeds players weren't, but maybe Southampton fans will be.
All right. Welsh rugby in the red, obviously. New lows, week on week. We thought that, we'd expose them somehow, and that the team that they picked this week would be a backlash, but no sign of the backlash.
How much of this is Wales being shite, or Scotland being actually quite good?
I think we need to be very, very wary of Scotland. Finn Russell, Finn Russell seems to be all in.
Has there ever been a better display of kicking to find a winger? Like, some of his kicks were just so on the button. Now, I'm also wondering, are Wales that bad? They looked so bad in so many aspects.
It was a maverick anyway, regardless of Wales.
Like that pass.
He's had a baby. That seems to have settled him down. His partner's moved to Paris, and fully tuned in. Finn Russell faces Ireland in the World Cup. Stands between us and place in the quarterfinals.
What about the Six Nations? I mean, they play us in the Six Nations. This is the big game in the group. Forget about the World Cup for a moment.
Losing to this Ireland and Scotland side is no shame, but the manner of both defeats have been alarming. Do you think Warren Gatland's like, I could never go back? Do you think he's regretting it? Do you, Gatland?
No, I don't think so. I think that this is a really difficult start like this gives you the opportunity to go in and completely revolutionise whatever it is that you need to do. And he clearly loves Welsh rugby. He's obviously very suited to the temperament there. And, there'll be a crowd of kids coming through between now and the next World Cup. And he's got a contract that takes him up to at least halfway, but with the option to go the whole way. So, anyway, right, that's this week's. Anything else?
That is this
week's Gillette Labs Performance Rankings.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.